Fans, welcome to a special discussion with respect to the big news of the day, perhaps the big news of the week, the month, and that is the termination of Phil Brooks, CM Punk, from All Elite Wrestling and some of the fallout that may transpire from there. I'm Jack Kilby, Executive Vice President of Great North Wrestling, and here to discuss the matter at hand with me is Jake Walker, who many of you know is responsible for procuring a lot of the on-air talent for interviews that we do here on the Hannibal TV. Jake, how are you this afternoon or whatever time it is in your neck of the world?
It's afternoon and it's good, Jack. I'm actually happy to see Punk leave AEW. So,
well, definitely a polarizing figure. I happen to have the statement from Tony Khan that I can pull up on the screen here. I know many have seen it, many perhaps haven't, but he indicated that AEW has terminated the wrestler and employment agreements between Phil Brooks, CM Punk, and AEW with cause, which is interesting from a legal perspective that we'll talk about in a bit, effective immediately. The termination was confirmed today by Tony Khan, CEO, General Manager, and Head of Creative of AEW. The termination follows a week-long investigation of an incident occurring backstage at AEW, All In London on Sunday, August 27th. Following the investigation, the AEW Discipline Committee met and later convened with outside legal counsel before making a unanimous recommendation to Khan that CM Punk be terminated with cause. Khan offered the following statement. Phil played an important role within AEW, and I thank him for his contributions. The termination of his AEW contracts with cause is ultimately my decision and mine alone. Of course, I wish I didn't have to share this news, which may come as a disappointment to many of our fans. Nevertheless, I am making the decision in the best interests of the many amazing people who make AEW possible every week. Our talent, staff, venue operators, and many others whose efforts are unsung but essential to bringing our fans and the great shows on television and at arenas and stadiums throughout the world. So there's a lot to unpack there on the heels of what is being touted as legitimately the most successful live non-state sponsored wrestling event in history. And many will take a very close review of the language in there. And what I find interesting is not only the with cause, which greatly limits the potential recourse on behalf of Mr. Brooks, but also that Mr. Khan went out of his way to point out that it was his decision and his alone. Therefore, the elite and other associated parties are definitely not involved in that decision, which we probably can say with certainty they are. But Jake, before we get into that particular development, can you recount for the fans the incident that happened in Wembley last week and your thoughts on that?
1 second. All right. So what I understand is CM Punk and that Jack Perry, their Jungle Boy, whatever his name he's going by now, he and Punk got into an argument about something about real glass. Oh, this real glass is going to break or it's not going to break or something like that. And that was a jab at Punk. And then that set Punk off. And then they got into an altercation. And that's been reported multiple resources. So, yeah, just bizarre. I mean, I think that he has so much built up anger with some of these backstage guys that atmosphere for him is so toxic that how could he perform with that? He says that it doesn't affect him, but how can that not affect a person when you don't even want to, I don't think he wanted to be there, Jack. Honestly.
One of the other collateral pieces of information along with the incident with Mr. Perry is that he blew up first it was reported that he blew up and had a verbal dressing down of Mr. Khan. And then I read more recently in recent days that he actually had to be restrained from physically going at Tony. So in terms of a toxic work environment, I would agree that would be the case. However, I think in the interest of fairness, dating back to a year ago, the incident with the scrum and then the physical altercation backstage involving the elite and the other party involved, Ace Steele, the producer. I think there's a lot of blame to be had as to how that particular incident was handled. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I agree with that too. And just sorry, that's my child.
He has some definite opinions too.
Oh yeah, he does. So going back to that altercation, yeah, it definitely both sides, man. Like that. Think what you want of Punk and Steele. I see Steele as being a toxic guy too, and he's there for Punk. Punk's his best friend, his guy, and he's gonna stick up for him. I give him respect for that, but yeah, just again, too much toxicity.
Well, some have commented that ultimately the responsibility for this situation lies with Tony Khan, and that he didn't act decisively. There are, people that characterize him as wanting to be friends with the wrestlers, and that doesn't turn out very well as well. So I guess the thought was that if the Elite and Punk were separated, the creation of the Collision show, that would sort of take care of the problem, which in hindsight obviously didn't. So it's going. Would you agree that notwithstanding CM Punk being a polarizing figure and being characterized as a cancer in the locker room and across WWE as well, do you not agree that this is ultimately going to hurt AEW? Because to my understanding, he's the number one merch mover and was responsible for their first $1 million gate and perhaps to a high degree the success of the Wembley Stadium event.
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100% with that. It's going to set them back quite a bit of money for sure. He's a figure that people recognize, and his face has been all over wrestling and MMA for good or for bad. MMA. I totally agree. They're going to lose quite a bit of money with this one, man. Yeah.
Well, for a roster that is quite large in number, several have mentioned that they're hurting for star power, and Punk was without a doubt the biggest star in that company. I find it unfortunate that the initial situation was not handled in a more business-like manner with the Elite being sanctioned and Punk at the same time, and basically being told, you know what, you're gonna, if you want both sides, if you want to remain employed and make these huge contracts, you're going to do business. The match for Wembley Stadium, as good as Punk versus Joe was, the money match there was definitely Omega versus Punk, but that's going to go down in the annals of history as one of the another what if and another situation where large degrees of money has been left on the table. In terms of the comparison that a lot are making now between WCW and AEW, it seems to me that that in the latter stages of WCW anyway, where the wrestlers were running the show, that seems to be valid more than ever. And this bold move by Khan is perhaps too little too late at this point. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So this goes back to WCW. Let's go 99 to 2001, maybe even 98. But NWO, Eric Bischoff, you got the Elite with Tony Khan, and you got his buddies there, and they're running the show. That's exactly what this is. It's sad. It's sad to see it, but that's, yeah.
Well, it's extremely unfortunate from the perspective of not only AEW but the I think in a lot of ways AEW is missing the boat. I mean, they've been around 4 years. Their television ratings are not anything spectacular, to be kind. And they had a real potential. Maybe they still do. I'm not saying the company's dead. They're in the midst of renegotiating their television deals, I'm sure, in the next couple of years. The content is king, so I'm sure they'll get another one. But seems to me that some crucial mistakes have been made late WCWS that are taking down the potential of making AEW, if that's even a mathematical possibility, probably not, but a real competitor to WWE. Now, for the question of the day, as a response to this situation, what do you think the pros and cons are in terms of CM Punk rejoining WWE, given all the nuclear heat that he is said to have had there as well to this day?
All right. So first, I'll say pros are he's been there before. He's made a name for himself there too, so he's recognizable. People will see him and be like, "Oh yeah, CM Punk." You know, when he did the pipe bomb and he did all that, and okay, so that's good for nostalgia. But then on the bad, you're gonna get more toxicity, man. Like you just can't get away from it. And I don't know what it is about him. I read something the other day, and I'll say this really quick, and this is just paraphrasing, but he said that before Roddy Piper died and before someone else passed, they said that I was a good enough wrestler, so that's all that matters to me. If you don't like me, well, tough crap, because I got my approval from Roddy Piper, so shove it in your face type of thing.
Yeah, that was at the Cauliflower Alley Club
There you go.
Banquet this year, where he received an award, and that in a nutshell would seem to characterize his outlook. Which, when there's control, as there is in the WWE, it works to an extent, but in the chaotic land that is AEW, it certainly has not. So, interesting news. If I was a betting person, which I'm not, I would heavily believe that Punk will be brought into WWE again. Yeah. They've just signed this historic merger. They're one company now with UFC. They need the lead-ins there are they write themselves, because he was a UFC competitor.
Yeah.
And they need stars. They need content. They need to definitely maximize a free agent of Punk's stature. That being said, there's always the potential that the locker room cancer tag will negate any of that, but that remains to be seen. Speaking of WWE, I don't know if you saw another piece of news today, a statement by Triple H, in which he said, it was reported in BusinessInsider.com that the consortium that is the WWE UFC merger, he informed them that if Shane McMahon returns with any real authority, he'll be happy to step aside and explore other ventures. So the plot thickens in terms of the politics across the board.
Yeah. Again, nostalgia is in people's minds, man. Like, again, this goes back to 2001 when you had these two companies, and then there comes Shane, and then there's supposed to be some revolution. Like, honestly, man, all this has been done before. We need something new, and this isn't new. I mean, it might be good for a while if Shane were to come in, maybe some fresh ideas, I guess, but I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, if you believe the information from the Royal Rumble a couple of years ago, Shane went in and kind of went hog wild and made himself the star of the show and the world beater. And from what some have said, that was uncharacteristic of him in the past. But I think any tie to the McMahon family for the new WWE is going to be a positive, given that Vince McMahon quite possibly maybe wants to work another 50 years, but he's pushing 80 years old. That doesn't seem realistic. So there will be a lot of intrigue to follow in the weeks and months to come. But to recap, Mr. Phil Brooks, CM Punk, has been terminated from AEW, and let the punditry begin. Before I get your final thoughts on that, though, Jake, I want to mention to the fans that we, Great North Wrestling, are returning to Renfrew, Ontario for the Renfrew Reckoning card. That will be November 4th. Doors open at 6 p.m. for a meet and greet. The show time will be at 7. That's at the Renfrew Armories. You can get your tickets now at ticketweb.ca, and we will have them available at the door, working on an on-sale location in advance in Renfrew, but we'll get to that. This show is going to be headlined by the return to Great North Wrestling of multi-time WWE Tag Team Champion Rene Dupree. We will have the Almighty Blood Hunter returning on the show. We will have Jeremy Prophet, the former Canadian champion, but the match that I'm very looking forward to is the new Canadian champion, my man, 1/3 of the big money players. That would be Magnum McLaren, along with Big Daddy Diamond and myself. I'll be there to witness greatness and history being made once again when Magnum will be defending the Canadian Heavyweight Championship. And we're going to have more information on that. We have a number of really interesting things to announce in now that we're actually approaching the actual Labor Day into September. We're counting down. We're going to be surprising the fans with many interesting developments and the kind of action that they expect from Great North Wrestling. So being an honorary member of the Big Money Players, you must be looking forward to that match, Jake.
I just want to say, and I'll plug it, get your shirt. Jack, do you still have?
You bet.
Okay.
You bet.
So get your shirts. Talk to Jack there. These things are beautiful, folks. Like, come on. I'm the West Coast. I'm an honorary West Coast member. Take it from me. So, yeah, I'm very, very excited for that. Magnum is just unreal.
He is a phenomenal talent and making his way across the wrestling world. But there will be many other exciting matches to come that will be announced when we get closer. The card's going to come together. So before we sign off today, what final thoughts do you have, Jake, on the CM Punk termination situation?
I guess I would expect, like you said, he'll end up in WWE, and it's just a matter of time. So let's just hope that the locker room will be a bit less toxic this time. But again, we'll see.
Yeah, we shall see. I have a degree of sympathy for. I believe that Punk went over the line with respect to little Mr. Perry there, but I think the original situation with the scrum was handled very poorly.
Yep.
And there's certain individuals that have contributed to this situation that have completely been not sanctioned at all. Hangman Page being one of them, and the rest of the elite. But that's water under the bridge. That's water under the bridge for now. So, fans, that's it for this special edition of the update, the news update today, where we took a little bit of an in-depth look at the CM Punk situation. Looking forward to what fans think about this in the weeks and months to come. I think we will have more on this as it arises, and want to remind the fans that tomorrow, live on the Great North Wrestling Podcast, we're going to have the Insane Luchador, ECW original legend, super crazy. He will be on the show, and we will be taking fan questions. But until then, that's all. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Follow us on Twitter